In this short video, we're going to talk about an introduction to sets. So we'll answer the question, what is a set? And it's really all about the details. A set is a collection of well-defined objects. And by well-defined, we mean that everyone could describe it in exactly the same way without question. So here's an example of a collection of objects. And this collection could be defined in several ways. The best dogs ever. The best kinds of pets to own. Four-legged creatures, mammals, dogs. Some of those are pretty good descriptions, but they're pretty vague and they don't get into the details. These definitions or descriptions above and the others I've mentioned are very subjective. Not everyone would describe a set either of these ways or in some of the other ways that I've described. However, there is a very detailed and distinct description of this group. So without question, this set could be described as dog breeds recognized by the American Kennel Club with names that begin with the letter M. So these are the 6 breeds that are recognized by the AKC, which is the American Kennel Club, whose names begin with the letter M. There are no other dogs that the American Kennel Club recognizes whose names begin with M. And so for this reason, this is a very distinct description that describes this set perfectly. So the distinction between a collection and a set is that the set has to be well defined and it can't be disputable. For example, if we just went with four-legged animals, well, this is not all the four-legged animals that there are. If we went with just mammals, this is not all the mammals that are. But this is the entire set of dogs whose names begin with the letter M that are recognized by the American Kennel Club. So there are a few definitions regarding sets that you need to know. The first one being that a set is a well-defined collection of objects, and that the elements are the members of the set. Braces are these symbols that are used to hold the members of a set. And there are 3 ways to indicate a set. A verbal description, such as the one you've just seen with the example of the dogs whose names begin with the letter M. A roster method, which is listing all the elements that are contained within a set. And a more formal general method for indicating a set is called set builder method. So for consistency, there are some general rules. Capital letters are used to name sets. Elements in a set are always separated by commas. And that in set builder notation, you can use any variable to describe the elements of a set. So we'll look at a few examples. We'll start with our set of dogs recognized by the American Kennel Club whose names begin with the letter M. And we'll name this set M. And we can represent it in 3 ways. A verbal description, as we've already done. Set M is a set of dogs recognized by the AKC with names that begin with the letter M. In the roster method, this would be the set of M is the Maltese, Manchester Terrier, the Mastiff, Miniature Bull Terrier, Miniature Pinscher, and the Miniature Schnauzer. And the more formal set builder notation, M is a set of X such that X is an AKC dog breed with a name that begins with the letter M. So when we're reading this formal notation of set builder, set M is the set of all elements X such that X is an AKC dog breed with names that begin with the letter M. So this first part tells you the name of the set, set M. Is the set of all elements X. So X is the variable here that's used to define the elements of the set. such that, and that's the way we read that vertical bar, X, any X in this set has to be an AKC dog breed with a name that begins with the letter M. Set M is the set of all elements X. The bar says such that, and then the rest of this, X is an AKC dog breed with names that begin with the letter M. So here we have some examples. We'll be given the set in one form and we'll be asked to write it in two other ways. Our first example is a set V of vowels. Well, the set V would be the letters A, E, I, O, and U. In the roster format, they're listed and separated by commas. Our V is a set of all elements X such that X is a vowel. This is the set builder, or more formal notation. Here's another set. R is a set of Y such that Y is a letter in the word radar. This is the set builder notation. Set R is the set of the letters of the word radar. Verbal description. So our set R is equal to A, D, and R, separated by commas and all listed out. And it's not necessary to repeat the members of the list. Just list them one time. And in this case, I put them in alphabetical order, and that's not always necessary, but is pretty customary to do. Now let's take a look at another example. Write this set in roster form. The set W of women who have served as the President of the United States. Since there are no women who have served as the President of the United States, the set W is what we call an empty set. When a set has no elements, it is an empty set, noted as above with the empty braces or with the symbol 0 with a slash through it, which is also known as the null set. So the empty set and the null set describe the same thing. They describe a set with no members or no elements. You'll sometimes be asked to determine if a set is an empty set. You may be asked to determine if a set is actually an empty set. So for example, A is a set of all elements P such that P is a U.S. president who died by assassination. Or B is a set of all elements X such that X is a whole number between 3 and 4. Well, set A, unfortunately, does have members because there are 4 U.S. presidents who died by assassination. Those would be Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy. And that, of course, is in the roster format. But when you get to set B and you try to find a whole number between 3 and 4, that's not possible to do. So that would be the empty set. So sometimes you have to examine a description to determine if it's an empty set or not. So there are other set symbols for which you should know their meaning. In addition to the symbols that denote the empty set, that is the braces that are empty, or the null set 0/, there are other important set symbols you must know and recognize. This E symbol means is an element of. For example, 5 is an element of the set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, you can see that because 5 is one of the members or elements of that set. Then there's is not an element of. And this is the same symbol for is an element of, however, there's a slash through the E, meaning it is not an element of. And the example here is 5 is not an element of the set 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the basic information you need to have a fundamental understanding of sets. So there are a couple of well-known sets that have been around for a really long time, and they kind of have letters that are reserved for them. The first one being the natural numbers, and the letter N is reserved for natural numbers. And these are also known as the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And these three dots indicate that this is an infinite set that can be written in roster form, because you can list that and follow by the three dots, and the pattern is easy to see that these are the numbers that you would count by, or what we know as the natural numbers. Now the other set is the real numbers. And this is an infinite set that cannot be written in roster form, because this contains all of the real numbers, which would include all the fractions, all the decimals, all the whole numbers, all the positive numbers, all the negative numbers, the number 0, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. And by rational numbers, I mean fractions and decimals. By irrational numbers, I mean numbers like the square root of 5 or pi or e or some of these other famous numbers that don't have a repeated pattern in their decimal, but have a decimal that never ends. So these are two well-known sets that you should be familiar with, and you'll probably see them in weeks to come, in particular the set of real numbers.